Hey there, this is Peter. It's time to take another break with Valley CAD. So in today's video, what we're going to be working through is another creation of a drawing view. And this sort of drawing view was actually introduced to SOLIDWORKS in 2019. And we're going to show you how to work through this drawing view and how to work through it when you're doing a more complex part. And by the way, this drawing view is called a removed section. And so it kind of correlates like a section view, but it's in a given, like it just slices through the part in a given location and just shows that given location of where it actually contacted. So go get your favorite cup of coffee or tea, and I'll see you in SOLIDWORKS in just a click. Hey there, welcome to SOLIDWORKS. So on this drawing, we got a simple little ratchet body here. This is actually a model that we make in our SOLIDWORKS Essentials class. And so as we're talking about here, you might be familiar with section view, right? And I'm on SOLIDWORKS 2021. You might have a view layout tab, you might not, as what we've been experiencing lately, but you definitely have what's called a drawing tab. Now, if you're on 2019, you do not have a drawing tab. And once again, the reason why I'm saying 2019 is because that's when this little fun icon here was introduced to SOLIDWORKS. So you might be familiar with the typical section view, right? Section view, you simply click on that and then you'll come in here and you say, okay, I need this to cut perfectly down the center of this ratchet, and I'm gonna drop it off to the side and done. Section view, I like to think of it like a geode, right? You come in here with a rock and you come around and you cut it and you open it up and then you see all the awesome crystals inside, right? Well, section view works the same way. It's coming in and it's cutting this down the middle in half, and now we get to see what's going on inside of this part, right? So we might have not been able to notice that there was a hole here, this little tapped hole, this M8 hole, right? So as we look at these two views, you know, it's giving us some information around the head and as I mentioned, that M8 tapped hole there, but it doesn't really tell us what the shape is of our profiles here, right? Like, what's the true shape of this handle, or what's the shape of our transition piece there? So this is where a feature such as removed section will come into play. So as I'm under my drawing tab, I get to see removed section. And once again, this was introduced in 2019. So activating this, when you activate remove section, all you have to do is click on two edges that are opposite of each other. So if I come in here and I say, okay, let's see what the true profile of this little transition piece is, I'll click on this edge on the left, come over and click on the edge on the right. You'll then see a pink phantom line come in and cut into the model. You know, think like a lightsaber or knife, whichever way you want to nerd out, right? So I'm going to move my cursor to the right and click. What that does is it says, hey, you are cutting in at this given location, and guess what? It's a circle shape in this scenario, right? And so now we can see, how does this thing really look? And so when you do the remove section, notice it doesn't show like the handle part all behind this view. It's just saying at this given location. Awesome. So then we can do that again, and we simply come in and we want to see, hey, what's the handle piece kind of looking like? So we'll come up to remove section again, and we'll just simply click on one edge, come over to the other side. And I'm using the automatic approach right now, by the way. If I switch to manual mode, that'll let me come in and I could click on one area, and then I could control if I want it to be an angled cut or not. So I like to typically use automatic when I'm doing this, and I'll just simply click, move my cursor to the right, and drop again. And as we look here, the handle actually has some draft to it, it has some filleted edges, and it is that kind of rectangular shape to begin with. The other thing that's really cool about the remove section command is that you can actually click on that line that you had. You can actually move that up and down and relocate it on your model. So if you're like, oh, I actually need to see a little more information regarding that M8 tapped hole. Okay, so I moved it. Now you'll see that I have a little like orange square or box around my view, right? That's SOLIDWORKS' way of giving you, hey, look, you updated something. You need to rebuild the file to update it. So you can push Control Q or Control B, or you could come up to that traffic light and click on the rebuild button there. Since I moved it up, we can actually see that little tapped hole that's at the end of my part there. And it also drops in the annotation for it too. All right, so that's a simple way of using the remove section. Now, how would this work if we had something a little more complicated? So when I mean complicated, I mean maybe something kind of like this. You know, this is a complicated part, and I'm using a loft command for this. And all that I did was I made 3 reference planes, and they are all 5-inch increments from each other. And all I did was I came in with a simple ellipse sketch, and I came in at 5 inches by 2.5 inches there. And I just copied that ellipse onto each plane, and all that I did was I rotated it by 60 degrees on each plane there. So that way it creates a revolve around it as it's transitioning up. Awesome. So I want to be able to come in and show, hey, what is the orientation of this ellipse, you know, at maybe plane number 1 or at plane number 2 there. You know, this is actually how the sketch looks in those 2 planes, and I want to be able to show that in my drawing. So let's go open up a drawing for this guy. You'll see here on my drawing view that I came in and I made a front view, side view, a top view, and a bottom view. So the top view and bottom view is able to show me what the angle is of that ellipse. But as I look at it in the middle here, I don't really get much information on it, right? So you will notice here that my front view here has some lines on it. And where do these lines come from? Well, these lines are actually the sketches that I used in my part file. And what I utilized was my feature manager design tree of the drawing, and I expanded out drawing view number 1, which is this view here, and I expanded out the part file, and I came in and I made it to where I can see all the sketches used for that loft feature. So these are the 2 intermediate steps of that loft. All right, so why did I do that? Well, when I come in and put in my cutting plane, I want it so it can locate nicely on there. So we're gonna come up and do drawing tab again, and we're gonna say remove section. So coming in and doing a remove section on this, you know, SOLIDWORKS is going to recognize, okay, there's an edge. I'm going to come over here and click on this edge. But as you notice, as I'm moving my cursor up and down, and by the way, I'm doing an automatic, not manual, SOLIDWORKS is coming in and kind of having a hard time making a horizontal line for me, right? Well, that's because what's currently that blue edge and pink edge, those aren't just simply straight edges moving up. Those are actually twisting. So that's actually a 3D object. So, you know, if I was to do this and simply click, SOLIDWORKS will spit out that given shape, but that's not what I want to have here. And you know, you could try to come in here and I could right click on it and say, hey, I want to edit my cutting line. Okay, so that'll show that there, and I could come over and say, all right, let's make it so it comes in on there. And you know, I also need it so that, let's see here, if I right click again, edit cutting line, okay. You know, let's switch to manual mode. Manual will probably make this easier, right? I could have a blue dot, I'll click there, then come over like so, and click again. It's kinda horizontal, kinda, not really though. So here's a little trick for when you're working with a complicated view like this, or complicated part. I'm gonna come in and do remove section again, and I'm gonna click on those 2 edges, right? So we'll come in here, we'll click on that edge and this edge over here. So looking at this, if I move my cursor to the bottom or to the top, SOLIDWORKS will come in and will find where those edges are coming up and stopping. You know, thankfully I have a perfectly flat top and perfectly flat bottom, and SOLIDWORKS will stop it at those given points. So now if I click, move my cursor to the right, you'll see here that SOLIDWORKS doesn't show anything, right? Well, that's because my cutting plane, or my cutting line there, lightsaber, sword, whatever you want to use, is actually at the very top of my model. So just like what I did with my ratchet part that I was using earlier, I could simply click on that and drag it down. And so if I drop right now and do a Control Q, you'll see that SOLIDWORKS will come in and it'll show in that given location. But like I said, I want to be able to show it at those given 5-inch increments, right? So that's why I made it to where I could see my sketches from the part file. So I'll take this and I'll drag it down, and you have to come in and you kind of have to like eyeball it to get it somewhat close. And from there, I'll do a Control Q to rebuild it. And then you'll see right here, hey, that's what my ellipse shape looks at that given location. Then we'll come in here again. We'll do another remove section, and I'll click on the two edges again, the two opposite sides. Move my cursor to the very bottom so it's perfectly horizontal. Click, and then move my cursor to the right to drop the view. Then I'll come back onto this, and I'll drag it up like so, and we'll drag it up to the bottom line like that. And then from there, do a Control B, Control Q, or come up here and click on the traffic light. And now we can see it at that given angle again. So now we got that set up. I can move these in and out, to try to space it out a little bit easier. So what I can do here now, since I made it to where I could see my sketches, you'll see those sketches kind of like show up quickly in these views. If I come over to my annotation and select Smart Dimension, I could come in here and see that center line temporarily and that one there too. And then from here, I could come in and drop whatever angle I want. So I'll give it an obtuse angle of 120 degrees. And so now we could say, hey, let's dimension this here and say, hey, here it is at 0, 0, then 5 inches up. So we'll click here and click on to there. We'll come up here and we'll do that edge alone, and we'll make it so it's 10 inches there. And we'll do it again from here to here, and we'll say that that needs to be at 5 inches. And then from there, we'll simply do a rebuild on it. So Control Q, and we're rocking and rolling there. So in closing, hopefully you can find some really nifty ways to utilize that removed section view as you are making some more parts in your drawings. Awesome. So if you are enjoying these videos, please click that thumbs up button and also click that subscribe button so that way you know when future videos are posted. And also, we love seeing comments. We get emails from people as we've shared these videos with others of how they have helped them. But also, we want to know, have you used remove section? Are there other drawing approaches that might help out other users as well? Awesome. So once again, my name is Peter. Have a great rest of the day and make sure you learn something new.